The Cowboys contract extensions, roster moves, and the draft. Take a listen.
Candidly, without any way being defensive, we're very proud of our personnel, very proud of this roster. How do we feel about where we've been in this free agency? We feel great about what we've been in free agency. All in. All in. All in. We're all in with these young guys coming on. And we're all in with this draft.
What? Meanwhile, Mike McCarthy's like, my God, I hope we get one of these running backs. It'd be great to add it to the room, but I don't believe that these draft picks are just absolutely starters. I don't understand any of this. All in, Derrick Henry's on the Ravens. So, Nick, your reaction. Coach Mangini's here. Hi, Coach. I want you to make sense of it.
I just got to say real fast, the Cowboys, and especially Jerry Jones, the gift that just keeps on giving. I mean, they just give us such great sound bites to work with. Look at this perfect pause. They're both smirking. It's just unbelievable. It's hilarious how they say we're all in, and then they're like, no, we're all in on just these main guys, and no, we're all in on free agency. No, we're all in on the draft. It's just, oh my God, it's unbelievable. It really, really is.
This.
I can't believe I think this word is overused and misused, but I think this is accurate here. I think Jerry Jones is gaslighting us, guys. Oh. I think Jerry Jones is doing a couple things. One is changing the definition of what all in has always meant in terms of sports and what it means, particularly if you state it right before a free agency period begins. I think that's happening. And I think Jerry Jones is dealing with the fact that the Cowboys kind of already went all in on the last couple years. That's the fact that they owe Dak Prescott $29 million of cash for the rest of his contract, but $96 million of cap charges shows they've been borrowing from the future and they have nothing to show for it.
Right.
So
I have to pause real fast because how can Nick Wright finally admit that? But that he's been calling out Brew, because Brew's been saying that it's Super Bowl or bust for the Dallas Cowboys, and Nick Wright has given him so much grief over that, saying, no, it's not, and yet those decisions that Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys have been making are in service of winning a Super Bowl, and is putting them in a difficult situation in the future, aka a bust. So I don't understand how Nick Wright could ever give the grief to Brew for that when he just admitted that this is what the Cowboys have been doing, and he's saying that they have nothing to show for it. So oh my God,
they have to act like, no, we're still doing it, but they're boxed in by Dak's cap hit. They're boxed in by the no trade. They're boxed in by all these things. And so he wants to say they're all in without doing anything, which is just flatly not accurate to what is going on.
Yeah, I think what he means by all in, and this is maybe what you're alluding to, changing the definition, we're all in this year. And if it doesn't work, which I think is probably at least the NFC title game, if we don't get there, now they're S-Bob. Just because he wants to change it,
Thank you.
They're S-Bob. All right.
Yeah.
But if we don't get at least to the NFC title game, I think it's looking like he's going to start all over, maybe offensively. All right. And so as far as McCarthy, McCarthy knows I'm on a lame duck contract. My defensive coordinator's on a lame duck contract. I've lost a lot of my offensive linemen. We only have 4 draft picks in the top 170. I get it. They seem, you watch the whole press conference, they seem to believe in their drafts of the past, and these guys are going to step up and be good starters. But McCarthy sees the writing on the wall. He sees the depth chart with Rico Dowdell on there and wow, I need a running back. And so I wonder, did he say that next to Jerry, that quote, or later on when he was by himself?
Oh,
I don't know. It was on their website.
I don't think it was.
But look at the running back room. So they've got Deuce Vaughn, Rico Dowdell, and Royce Freeman, combined 214 carries.
Fresh.
214 touches.
Oh,
Tony Pollard last year had over 300 touches. Now, if you compare that to 2 years ago where they had Pollard and Zeke, those guys had 414 carries in the same year, 1,800 yards, and 21 touchdowns. And now they're looking at Dowdell, Freeman, and Deuce Vaughn Of course, McCarthy's like, I hope we get a running back. But he's right. When you look at this group of running backs, it's not as strong as it has historically been. But running backs, you can get guys later in the draft.
That's
Guys
not their
pop-
biggest problem is lack of running.
That's a pretty big problem, though.
find
Because I don't think they have the quarterback that's just going to carry
But,
the team.
but
That's the
think
thing.
about
Without
2
them.
of
years
course a
ago
running
when they
back
had
is a
Zeke
problem. What are
and
you
Tony
talking about?
Pollard, and now we're talking about these three guys, and you're sitting there, I hope we hit on a running back in the draft. So to say you're all in on the draft, you better be. You better be, especially at that position. You got to compliment Dak with something.
So listen, this is where I'll disagree with you guys. The Cowboys have legitimate issues. I don't think the running back room's going to be a problem for them.
Why? I mean,
Because here's
assuming
why.
if this is the team,
I do think they're going to draft somebody in some round.
and he's just going to be good
Yeah,
automatically.
I think that they had the highest scoring team in the league last year with bad running back play. That's what I think.
Tony
And-
Pollard wasn't bad.
He
Bad
averaged
is
4
way
yards a
too
Hold on,
carry
hold on.
and 5.7 yards a catch.
Right, which is to
Seventh most
me
in the league.
more about their offense, and now you can say their offensive line's not going to be as good because Tyron Smith's gone, Biotish is gone, the offensive line. I think they had, and I think Pollard's free agency period post-Dallas proved this out, replacement level running back play, and the offense hummed. I don't think their problem is going, you can find running backs in this league. Their problem is not that they didn't sign Derrick Henry. Their problem is what we're going to get to, that all their best players need new contracts, and they don't seem to have the money to do it.
Well,
That's their problem.
You can find guys to run the ball.
That's all Tony
You
Pollard
can
was.
find. It wasn't.
He made it. Well, I know a Pro Bowl isn't what he used to be, but he averaged more than 5 yards for his career.
Right.
Last year when he did have to be the main guy, no Zeke, he wasn't as good, but he still was pretty good.
Didn't have a hard time in free agency. Seemed to get signed pretty quickly
Right.
for a terrible back.
I didn't
team
say it
that
was
had
terrible,
Derrick
Coach. I
Henry.
didn't say it was terrible, but I don't think that
You said he was replacement
level.
Yeah, and he considers him a scrub. So now talk about gaslighting. He's gaslighting Mangini because he's always acted like Tony Pollard was a scrub. Not to mention Tony Pollard got banged up and injured. Also, let's be serious here. The overall run game against other teams, for the Cowboys is also somewhat misleading because the Cowboys blew out a lot of teams. So they started running the ball a lot, and they were blowing out teams because, say it with me, they played awful teams. They just kept beating, as Bruce says, tomato can teams. So I don't really care about any of the stats of last season because they clearly proved to be nonsense. Because if you just looked at the stats, the Dallas Cowboys were one of the best teams in the NFL. And yet, as soon as they played good teams, they lost. And as soon as they played a good team in the playoffs, they got demolished. So using last year's stats is meaningless. Absolutely, positively meaningless.
I think you can find Tony Pollard's. I do. I think that everybody falls in love with the change of pace back because the yards per carry are high, because of the way they're used and they're always fresh. And then they become your every down guy and you're like, oh, he's not that good. And with him as their every down guy, the offense in the regular season last year was the highest scoring in football. So I don't think that was their problem.
Well,
That's
the
the
good
only
news
point
is
I'm
they have to
making.
find both now.
What? Well,
No,
one of those guys could be
right.
their change of pace back,
Yeah,
whether
maybe.
it's Deuce or Rico Dowdle. One of those guys could do that.
All right, well, how about the stars who are currently on the team? Well, here's Jerry with the rare poker and landscaping metaphor. Take a listen.
Who in the world would think that we're not working on it? I work on it. It pops open at 2 in the morning sometimes. What your actually question is why don't you have something done and negotiated and put in the drawer? Well, we'd like to see some more leaves fall. We'd like to see some more action. It'd be madness not to know that the contracts are ahead. I want to see a few more cards played.
Okay, well, the Cards played this afternoon, Brew. Amon-Ra St. Brown just signed for 120, most wide receiver guaranteed money ever at 77. So CeeDee Lamb said, oh, that's nice. And just statistically, CeeDee Lamb led him in all categories, like every single one. So there's that.
Well, look, I think they're definitely going to sign CD and Micah. The only caveats would be if it goes, you could let CD play it out this year. And if it doesn't go well,
CD
are you
doesn't want to.
saying
He
we're
refused
starting
to.
over offensively and we don't need a high-price wide receiver? Maybe. Micah, if the
That'd be
reports,
wild.
about some people in the organization would like it if he's gone. Maybe they want to see him mature. I'm not saying they want to get rid of him, but Micah, you whatever it is, you got to mature, whatever they're looking for, before we give you this money. So I guess those are the two caveats I'd say, but I expect him to get signed.
So he has a ton of quotes, right? So the leaves are falling, the cards are being played. He talks about being an option quarterback, all in. I mean, it goes on and on, and he talks about the credit card. Let me show you the quote that the Dallas Cowboys fans only need to look at. This is all you need to know about the Dallas Cowboys this year. I just want to try to be good enough to work through this and us have a winning season, which we have a chance to have. That is who the Cowboys are this year. The card's falling. He's going to look. Where does CeeDee Lamb play out? Where does Micah Parsons play out? Where does Mike McCarthy play out? He's going to let all that stuff happen without spending a lot of money, and then at the end of the year, then they're going to recalibrate. And the
So you don't think they'll have a contract going into the season? I think
that this is the most truthful statement he said.
Wow.
Is that they are gonna let this thing play out, hopefully make the playoffs, which he thinks he can, because they've got to repay the credit card. And then at the end of the year, whoever's worth keeping around, great. Whoever's not, they're going to move on.
So I think that's about the coach and the quarterback, not about CeeDee and Micah. So I disagree with you there. I think CeeDee and Micah will both get deals, which this, to me, is the fair criticism of the Cowboys. Waiting, it'd be one thing if it's like, you know what, haven't seen enough from CeeDee Lamb. Don't know if he's good enough. Like, if it truly was, we're going to watch more football be played.
Yeah.
But waiting later in the offseason, here's what I believe he is saying. Justin Jefferson is going to sign a new deal, which will set a ceiling of all the wide receiver deals, similar to what Aaron Donald did with D tackles a while ago, which was everyone knew he's the best, so you don't have to beat it. The problem is deals like Amon-Ra St. Brown. The problem is guys that your guy is better than will also sign deals in the interim. You know, a team who I criticize some of their drafting, and I certainly criticize their coach, but whose front office knows what they're doing is the Eagles. You know what they did? They had Devontae Smith, and last week they got him for 3 for $75 because they got him early. They paid him early, so he took a bit of a discount because he got the security of it, and you keep it moving. But when you have from CeeDee's draft class the following people potentially getting deals, not just Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee's better than him. T. Higgins, CeeDee's better than him. So all of these deals, CeeDee is going to have to exceed, and now also Amon-Ra St. Brown, who CeeDee is better than. It's a bananas way to manage your cap, and it's why they're in this position. They're in this position because they did the same thing with Dak. We need to wait, we need to wait, we need to wait, and then you decided you were going to sign him anyway, and you got a no trade, no tag, and you're in this position. Well, that part they do poorly.
But it's also when you use the credit card, at some point you got to pay the bill.
I agree with that.
They got to pay the Dak bill, and so they've got to see now where do these guys. This season is going to be about let's hope we can get to the playoffs, see what happens, and then we'll.
Then those guys will just
they're going to be
more
all
expensive.
in next.
I don't know how you can keep kicking the can down the road. And what if you don't make the playoffs? Or you just limp into the playoffs and then lose in the first round again? I mean, who wants to pay? If that's all you can do, who wants to pay all these guys all this money? And not to mention, if you need another quarterback, like that roster that you have, let's just say they don't pay anyone yet. Let's just say that, which I don't think that'll be. But let's say they do that. What would you even do? If they limp into the playoffs and then lose, why would that be worthy of them giving all these guys all this money? And if they fail to make the playoffs, you're then going to give these guys all this money. I guess I'm just kind of confused as to like what are the options in that regard, except for, hey, the plan is actually, I don't actually know what to do with these guys. We got Dak, we got Lamb, we got Micah. I don't know what to do. Mike McCarthy is going to be fired. We're going to fire him, and then we're going to bring in Bill Belichick or, you know, some other guy, some other big-time coach, and then we're going to, like, listen to him. He's going to let us know, okay, keep Dak, move on from Micah, you know, whatever, and we're going to trust him, right? Because if they hired, say, a Harbaugh would come in and say, I can win with Dak. I want Dak. That is why I'm taking this job. Give me Dak. I don't need Micah. We can find another guy in the second round. You know, I'm making stuff up, obviously. You know, there we go. Or you know what? I must have CeeDee Lamb. You got to give me CeeDee Lamb and Micah. Move on from Dak. We're going to draft it. I love this guy, you know, coming out of Japipville. Chapipville State, and I'm gonna draft him. We're gonna move up in the draft. We're gonna secure him. We're gonna get the rookie deal. We're gonna have CeeDee Lamb. We're gonna have Micah. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna also get this running back. Yada yada yada. But we're moving on from Dak. He's too expensive. Not good enough. Like, I could see those things, but I guess, like, if that's what you were going to do, and if that was the plan, then I just don't understand why even let this season play out. Like, I'm just, like, confused by that. Why not, if you wanted that other coach, like, and again, obviously Harbaugh's not available, but let's say, like, their master plan is to go out and get Bill Belichick. Like, it's like, well, then why wouldn't you have just gotten him now? And then at least had this year play out, let him get comfortable, and then if they're going to move on from Dak or move on from Micah or CD or anyone, like, at least they get the familiarity. So then that second season, they can really hit the ground running, and they can really prepare and do what needs to be done. So I don't understand. Also, if you're going to move on from, say, Dak or really any of these players, what's the point of even trying to make the playoffs? Ideally, then you don't want. I don't want to say, like, you should 100% tank, but, like, I don't understand. Like, why spend any money? Why have any hope? And why try to make the playoffs at all then? And, like, is his plan going to be something outrageous, like get Deion Sanders to be the coach, and then they're going to draft, his son as the quarterback? Oh, God, I really hope that happens. That will be one of the funniest things to ever happen in the history of all of professional sports. It would be one of the greatest moments in just, football history. And it would be one of the funniest things I could ever imagine. I'm really hoping that that's maybe his, like, big master plan, because that would just be so spectacularly awesome. But I really struggle, because you can see these guys are struggling to make sense of it too, because it's just like, what are you trying to do? Not to mention, like, why wouldn't they have tried to move on from, if they wanted to move on from Dak, if that's their master plan? Because what I'm ultimately trying to say is, what more do you need to see from those three players? If you're not going to sign them to big money, then what are you doing right now? And if you are going to sign them, you're better off signing them now than later. So I can't understand it. I really can't grasp it. So this just seems to continue to get messier and messier as time goes on, quite honestly. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you think about Jerry Jones saying that they are all in on the 24 NFL draft? And about, in terms of the deals between Dak, Lamb, and Micah, wants to see some more cards played. What do you think that means? What do you think the Cowboys are going to do? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.